Hey, thanks for making it to Veterans Info Tap. I'm glad you made it. Wanted to talk to you about a little bit of a shift, not much, but a little bit of a shift here. Basically about our community, right? Veterans, spouses, military members, dependents, the veteran sphere in a whole. And the idea that many of us have family members that are already in the military, or they've retired, or they've gotten out, or they're thinking about joining. We all know that the military and all the branches have had some difficult times recruiting. I've seen it in the comments here, on different things where it's like, well, no wonder they're having a hard time, right? It's no surprise. So I found an article here, and I wanted to share this with you. I'm going to read you the headline here real quick, and then we'll jump into it. After missing recruiting goals, Army announces new occupational specialty to increase the ranks. I'm very, very curious to see what they're going to pick or what they're doing here. So hit the thumbs up, subscribe, share with a friend, all that good stuff. I really appreciate it. If you're not a member, consider joining. It does help the channel, and it helps me to find you in the comments. So again, the Army missed its goals for recruiting. So now Big Army goes, we need to, sorry about that, still under the weather. So Big Army misses its goals and announces that a new occupational specialty is what needs to happen. I don't know what it is. We'll find out together. I hope it's not something... I don't know. I'm kind of two ways on this. It could be something that's really cool, or it could be something that's just ridiculous. So I guess we'll find out. All right, jumping into it. The Army announced Tuesday that it's overhauling recruiting and creating a new career track for recruiters after failing for years to meet its goals for bringing young Americans into the service. The challenges unveiled by Army Secretary Christine Wormuth in a press briefing include a radical shift from recruiting as a temporary assignment for soldiers to recruiting as a new military occupational specialty. So that's neither one of the things that I thought, but interesting. So military occupational specialty, or MOS. So like any of this stuff, you may be seeing this in other branches too, and especially if this works for the Army. So I'm going to read that last sentence again. So, or part of it anyway. So a radical shift from recruiting as a temporary assignment for soldiers to recruiting as a new military occupational specialty, or MOS. The career track is expected to be rolled out as a pilot program in the coming months. It's very interesting. The service has been struggling to bring in recruits, especially since the COVID-19 pandemic. It just reported coming up 10,000 soldiers short of its goal of bringing in 65,000 new troops over the past fiscal year, which ended on Sunday. Last year, it missed its goal of 60,000 soldiers by 15,000. Wow. It was evident we were going to have to make more transformative changes. The job market has changed significantly over the past 20 years, but we, as the Army, haven't changed very much, Wormuth told reporters gathered for the briefing. The service is planning a small pilot program creating an MOS listed as 42 Tango, dedicated Army recruiters who will be called talent acquisition specialists. The service already has the 79 Romeo recruiter MOS. Still, that assignment is usually a secondary role for non-commissioned officers who have already served years in another role and are serving as recruiters for a brief term, like drill sergeants, before being rolled back into their original job. The current assignments are typically about 3 years, and by the time recruiters learn to navigate the system and get applicants enlisted, particularly how to manage hurdles at the military, at MEPS, they move on back to their regular Army. Having permanent recruiters could also get the Army closer to parity with the private sector, where recruiting is a specialized field within most major companies. No kidding. The changes will I've always kind of wondered that. I don't know if you have, but I always kind of thought that maybe that it would be an MOS, but then I was surprised that it wasn't. It was just kind of this temporary thing. So I think this is a good thing. The changes will also include making the commander of the Army Recruiting Command now a 2-star general with a 2-year tenure into a 3-star command with a 4-year tenure. Army planners are also set to create a warrant officer recruiting workforce with a specialized officer workforce under consideration. That idea is still in its infancy, Warmoth said, and will likely take months to finalize. The service missed its recruiting goal by 10,000 soldiers over the past year, but claims it did better than the previous year, which missed a lower goal by 15,000. That is a very big achievement compared to last year, Warmoth said, underscoring the rapidly evolving landscape and attracting talent and the overwhelming realization behind the scenes the way the Army does business is outdated. The Army pitched historically high enlistment bonuses to jobs that have become increasingly difficult to fill. We all know about hiring bonuses or enlistment bonuses, particularly ground combat roles, including special forces, medics, and tankers, according to Army data reviewed by military.com. It has also shifted incentives beyond cash bonuses, including letting soldiers pick their first duty station. At least some of the boost in recruiting could be attributed to the Future Soldiers Preparatory Course, another attempt by the Army to bring more soldiers into the service. The course allows participants or applicants who otherwise won't qualify, falling short on academic or body fat standards, extra time to get into compliance before basic training. Meanwhile, the Army is rebuilding relationships with public schools. Recruiters have gotten back to pitching the service to students after the pandemic closed down much of those efforts. I feel good about going into 2024. We're seeing some positive momentum. Major General Johnny Davis, commander of the Army Recruiting Command, told military.com in August. Everyone is also competing for these young men and women. We want the very best to serve. We're competing for them. In other words, right, all the branches are everybody's going after the same people. Army officials are trying to strike a delicate balance by filling the ranks while not lowering standards, which is very hard. Moving forward, the Army is aiming for recruits with higher education levels. According to service data, about half of new enlistees are high school seniors or recently graduated with a high school diploma. By 2028, the Army wants 1/3 of new recruits to have an education beyond high school compared to 20% of newly enlisted troops today. But it remains unclear, even with the newly announced recruiting overhaul, how the service will achieve that. An Army specialist, the high junior rank, and the rank a college graduate would usually be given upon enlisting makes about $30,000 a year. The average starting salary for a college graduate with a bachelor's degree is $65,000 per year, according to data from the National Centers of Education Statistics. Yeah, so in other words, why would you join the Army after graduating with a degree as an enlisted person making $30,000 a year? Is basically what they're saying there. Attitudes among potential recruiters have also shifted, making the Army's job more difficult. Studies shown Gen Z is much more skeptical. Gen Z is much more skeptical of service and fears the risk of injury or death while serving, and also not as interested in leaving their hometowns as compared to previous generations. All right, that concludes it. Man, I hope I feel better tomorrow. Have a great one. I appreciate you. And remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.